you had a background in Gartner, and how does that kind of shade and shape how you've constructed this philosophy?
Yeah, so obviously as an analyst, and I was there for 8 years, you learn to think a little bit differently, right? Because I came from the business and
Mhm.
was in operations. And an analyst, you need to look at things a little differently, and you
Sure.
need to be able to step back and get an objective view. But having been on the operations side from the carrier, being on the finance side, I have a background in finance as well, and then being able to also be on the shipper side gave me a fairly broad view. But then when I step back, it's like Gartner's a great company, but the way they still traditionally think of things isn't necessarily fit to today's world, but also some of the technology aspects, right? We all know Gartner's Magic Quadrant and
Mhm.
Gartner's market
Yep.
guides, and I used to create those. But these big dinosaurs of applications aren't necessarily fit for today's organizations either. And so when companies go out, whether you look for a technology vendor or you look for a service partner, it isn't always the biggest and most global companies that you need. It's those companies that really can create value. And we've always been talking about things like agility.
Mhm.
Which of those partners can really bring you that agility? And sometimes the way we look at things from the bigger perspective, the big services, it's almost the reverse. Yeah, they're like the big oil tankers
Yeah.
who it's hard to sink them, but it's also very hard to change
Turn.
course on them and very hard to change their speed. We have to think more in terms of like these nimble speedboats that can go fast when they need to, but very quickly slow down and change course when we need. And that agility is something that I don't always see represented in some of the main stage research out there.